Wanaka, good evening and namaste. Welcome back to Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm your host Vijay Narayan, and tonight we have two guests out of the 6 that we invited in relation to these very contentious issues. I know that you have been sending me a lot of messages and calling me in relation to the salaries and benefit changes that was approved by Parliament a few weeks ago. A lot of people have called in and a lot of messages. We tried our very best, and we will continue to try. We reached out to the Prime Minister and Parliamentary Leader of the People's Alliance, Mr. Siti Beni Rambuka, the Deputy Prime Minister and Parliamentary Leader of NFP, Professor Biman Prasad, the Parliamentary Leader of Sodelpa and Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. William Ngavoka, and the Parliamentary Leader for the Fiji First, Opposition Leader, Mr. Inyas Heriratu. The two ladies here, also invited them, the Executive Director of Fiji Council of Social Services, Vani Catanasiga, and the Fiji Public Service Association General Secretary, Judith Kotobalavu. They, of course, are here. They've accepted the invitations. We did not get any response from the Prime Minister. The Leader of Opposition contacted me earlier today. He said he was committed and will make time for a show, to appear on a show, so hopefully we do get him in. Professor Biman Prasad, he said he's tied up with commitments, and he has assured us he will be on the show after the budget is delivered. And Mr. Ngavoka said he was tied up with an event and unfortunately he couldn't make it. But the show must go on, and the show is going on because there's a lot of concerns about these issues. And talking about issues, I'll start off with you, Vani. The Fiji Council of Social Services, you have been in existence for a long time. And you can tell us what are some of the concerns that you've had over the past 17 years which remain a concern for you?
Well, I mean, to do justice to perhaps some of what I'm going to explain, I might want to take it back to when FCOSS was established. It was really born out of a need for ensuring that we close the gap on rural education facilities. And, we haven't really come away from much of what FCOSS was established on. It's about closing the gap. For the last 17 years, we've been concerned about good governance, or governance in general, and we could see as we were delivering support and services that good governance or governance has a major role to play when you look at how citizens access social services, how you understand vulnerable communities and the needs that they have. Because if not, you're going to just design services that support, like a blanket approach to everything that, or the issues that exist in communities. So when we looked at how, not only at access, we were also looking at how citizens were participating, so that they could inform some of the policies, the way programs are designed. So generally in the last 17 years, our biggest concern has been about governance, and how that impacted how social services are designed and delivered. So that's covered even issues on disaster, climate change. It's looked at poverty alleviation programs. It's looked at particular support that you give to vulnerable populations like the elderly, children, and not just children who are at risk, but the various vulnerabilities that exist. Climate change, disaster, those who come from families at risk from, like crime, deviance. So for us, we've tried to not only, many people ask us, aren't you supposed to be providing services? Yes, we do provide services, but we also have to engage at the policy level and tell them that, this particular approach for designing this policy is a little bit disjointed from, the realities that, are on the ground. So it's been, the concern has been around governance and the impact that has on the design of social services and its delivery.
Judith, you have come on the show for the first time, and Fiji Public Service Association, we know change of leadership there. You have become the General Secretary of Fiji Public Service Association, but based on association, it serves civil servants of this country. What have you been concerned about over the past 17 years?
Thank you. Actually, the Fiji Public Service Association has been in existence for the past 82 years. And our concern is the interest to promote the right and the interest of the workers, especially the civil service. We do have members in the statutory authorities as well, and the government commercial entities. So our responsibility is to negotiate and we conduct collective bargaining with the employers in regards to our members' terms and conditions. But for the past 7 years, our main concern has been the salary for the civil service. There has been no increase in their salary since 2017. There was a job evaluation conducted whereby majority of the civil service they receive a pay rise, but then with the increased cost of living and the inflation rate, increase in inflation rate, and with the VAT, there has been no salary increase. So where is the fairness here and the, for the civil service? And this has lowered the morale of the in the public service, and it has affected the delivery of the services to the general public. The other concern as well is that the policy on payment of increment has changed based on performance, which is quite reasonable, but in practice it is a total failure because only a very few officers they benefit from the policy. This is based on the subjective nature of the process. Also, there's an element of risk and danger of favoritism that creeps in based on whom you know. That's been our concern.
So while there's a performance management system, I think there's been the assessments carried out, but no payment has been made, or some people have received payment and you're questioning how it's working.
For the past years, there has been no payment in regards to performance pay, but performance have been used to renew contracts of the officers. But in terms of remuneration, there's no payment.
Now, switching to the coalition government coming into power from Christmas Eve in the year 2022. They've been in power now for about 1 year, 6 months. How are things? How have you seen a coalition government coming into power and the changes, if any, good or bad?
Okay. For FCOSS, we certainly see an improvement in the expansion of civic spaces, agencies of, when we say agency, it's about, citizens' ability to independently make their own choices and all of that. So there's that opening of civic spaces. We can see that people are sharing their opinions. The participation of citizens in public discourse is very healthy. And we've got to commend the coalition government for that. The other bits that we're looking at is there's been some great reforms in public finance management, some traction in social protection, the social protection space, so in terms of looking at how the systems are working. I think there's a move towards adaptive social protection systems, but we're not really sure exactly where that is at right now. That was a process that had begun during the last government's, administration. There's some reforms in Itoke administration, but one of the concerns we had was whether that was inclusive, knowing that Itoke structures are very patriarchal. And so our concern was around the inclusiveness of such a process. So some good things and some not so good things that we think that the government can improve on.
What about from the union's perspective?
From FPSA, firstly, we applaud the removal of the contracts by the coalition government, because short-term contract, it actually affected the development of career paths in the civil service. And also institutional knowledge, has been lost in majority of the cases, because the new recruits, they take valuable time in, adjusting to perform their task that they were hired to carry out in the first place. Not only that, the convening of the Employment Relation Advisory Board, because it's a tripartite forum where the employees are being represented, so we applaud the government for that. And also the increase in the retirement age from 55 to 60. We applaud that, because retiring at the age of 55 made no sense at the current pace of modern day living. Actually, civil servants are at their peak at 55, very experienced, knowledgeable, and they they are the ones that mentor the junior officers. The review of the labor laws, or the Employment Relation Act 2007, which is long overdue, and we've noted that the government is seeking assistance from ILO to review the act. The trade union, in particular FPSA, will be making submissions to the review committee or a panel to point out any defects or any necessary requirements that's currently on statute.
In relation to wages and salaries, Vani, your organization works a lot on the ground. You've raised concerns earlier about the way some of the social programs have been run, where handouts are not the answer, even for those who are lower wage earners. How can we work better that the money that's even been given to subsidize certain things, that they worked out well? What are your concerns regarding wages and salaries being paid to workers in the country?
I guess for us it's really about service delivery, and the word is from our members, because we had done divisional budget submissions. I think it was workshops first, and then they did their submissions. But across all three events, because we had it here in the Central Division, we had one in the West, and I think we had one in the Eastern Division, or the Northern Division, if I remember correctly. The concerns coming from communities has always been about service delivery. We didn't know that program was for us. They don't come and serve us on time because they don't have vehicles. Sometimes the level of service that is expected from citizens or communities, they're not seeing that. And many times, many of them, because they are in the same communities, they come and say, can we help them get laptops? Yeah? Can we avail some, or do we have a vehicle that we can help to work together? Because there's already that goodwill that exists at subnational level. And you'll see this during disasters, or during issues of climate change. You'll see communities working together with subnational government officers, because there's almost that sort of connection, that relationship. And sometimes communities are asking us, can we help these particular government agencies, because they don't have enough resources. So it's come up in our budget submission as looking at service delivery of government. They would like government, and that was part of our submission, to look into how this is improved. And that means not only equipping civil servants but also making sure that they are supported well. If that means, capacity building, if that means pay increases, then so be it. But it is most particular in areas that are rural and out in the maritime islands. I think that was lifted from there. So we've got cases where our members are accompanying some of these government officials to help them deliver these services.
Vani, you were part of the Fiscal Review Committee from 2023 too. Some people are saying that, okay, what have you done? And you even on social media, some people are attacking you publicly. Right. What is your message to those people who are saying you are part of the system?
Well, I think it's clear that, sometimes you're asked to come and support your government, because most of us, we are talking from outside and we're telling them, this is the way we think that you can improve. And when you're given that opportunity to come in and help, for us as an NGO that has been here for 67 years, that's an opportunity we will make use of, because we know that sometimes they don't have all of the good ideas. And many of us come out to support this initiative for change. Some of us get paid, some don't. The work that we did under the Fiscal Review Committee was voluntary. But it was all geared towards getting Fiji out of that red zone in terms of debt issues, how our economy was contracting. How do we help government rethink this approach on development? And that was really the main idea. I know that there's been talk about, you actually supported the VAT increase. Actually, we were very intentional about that VAT increase. There was no perhaps proposals to look at increasing members of parliament salaries. It was all about how do we improve social protection so we can protect vulnerable people against all kinds of hazards, against all kinds of risks. And so there were a number of recommendations for initiatives to help ensure that that recommendation for VAT increase is the benefits for that particular recommendation is fully realized. It's not just one, it's a cross-cutting recommendations for different sectors, for reforms. If those actions are not all followed, this is exactly what's going to happen. And that's why we are raising our voice now, because when we initially proposed these recommendations, there was nothing there about increasing MPs' salaries. It was all about vulnerable people. That was the idea.
Do you think you've been played?
Not really. I just think that I'm still doing my duty by holding them to account. That is what FCOSS requires me to do, and that's what we are doing.
We'll talk about the members of parliament voting for those increments after the break. But yeah, on straight talk, if you can confirm, Judith, in relation to wages and salaries, you've said that for 7 years there's been no increments. There's been no fair system. People watching may say, as Vani has talked about, service delivery for some of the areas, because the civil service has been badly affected in terms of lack of decision making in certain departments and lack of growth, maybe also because of the fear factor that existed. A lot of ministries or ministers who've come here have talked about that, about a wholesale change that's required. If you can talk about the process of salary increase is not just taking place for the sake of it, because at the end of the day, people want efficient delivery.
Thank you. So from the union point of view, the workers have been deprived of the basic salary to be able to afford the daily bills, daily expenses. They are providing the service in terms of assessment. Maybe some of them have performed well, but we're still maintaining our stand that there should be fairness in terms of remuneration. You may be aware that other unions, they actually are making noises that the service delivery is really affected because of the salary, the resources, and this has resulted in the civil servants leaving for greener pastures overseas. So this is how they have been affected. And the challenge here is the retention strategy. So you offer them the resources, you offer them the salary required, their worth in terms of the service that they offer. They'll be willing to stay. We all know that labor migration is one of the main issues that the government needs to tackle. There is brain drain. Skilled and experienced workers are leaving, and we are concerned with the quality of public service, and that really lowers the quality of service delivery, because experienced officers and the senior ones are the ones that's leaving. So if the civil service is taken care of in terms of operations by junior officers, you can imagine it is the public that's at the receiving end. So fix the main issue, which is salary, resources, and of course service delivery will raise to a level that is expected by the public.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break.
Oh my gosh! Oh, what's in the box?
You're probably wondering, what's in the box? Well, if you must know, it's actually me. Before you call the police, I'm actually an app. The all-new Fiji Village starters, I look different. My new layout also comes with stories if you're looking for something short and sweet. I will bring you the latest news on the dot so you stay updated. You're welcome. You don't have to go anywhere for content because I bring the content to you. Not only can you listen to your favorite radio stations, you can also watch online video content. Which reminds me, do you love sports? Well, guess what? With the Fiji Village app, you can stay up to date with your favorite sports and scoreboards, no matter where you are. Your #1 news website just got better with an app. Download and get updated now.
I take back those words that hurt you, and you'd stay. That sounds right. Okay, I got it. If I could turn back time, if I could find a way.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I take a look at my life and realize there's nothing left. Sick and tired of hearing all these people talk about what's the deal with this pop life and when is it gonna fade out? The sun is fading away.
If I could reach the stars,
Bum, 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 bum. I don't know the rest of the words.
I'd give them all to you.
As the June light turns to moonlight. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la la la. Loving you is all I ever need. Making love with you is all good.
I take back those words that hurt you, and you'd stay.
क्या आपकी भी लाइफ में ऐसी ही टेंशन है? आपकी परेशानी को कम करने के लिए आ रहा हूँ मैं बहुत ही जल्द आपको हंसाने के लिए। रेडियो सरगम और रेडियो सरगम फेसबुक पेज पर बहुत ही जल्द वहीं पर मिलेंगे। हेलो, अरे यार,
Welcome back. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan, and our guest tonight, the Fiji Council of Social Services Executive Director Vani and the Fiji Public Service Association General Secretary Judith Kotobalavu. Just in relation to the changes in salaries and benefits approved by Parliament for the members of Parliament, the President and the Speaker. a lot of talk has taken place, and you two are now spearheading an online petition. I will ask you some specific questions. What are your concerns?
Our main concern is that there was no public consultation. There needs to be a independent committee set up to look into the emoluments as part of the emoluments committee to review the MP's salary. And our main concern is they have actually voted for their own salary increase, but the public and the civil service, the workers, are not prioritized. They are voted, by the public to offer service to the public. So the most outrageous issue here is they have gone ahead, voted. We understand with the Parliamentary Act there got to be processes followed, and they've gone ahead and gazetted the amendments to the salaries without public consultation. That really is something that it affects the trust of the public, and in terms of fairness, and transparency, it erodes the public trust. That is our main concern, and the public's perception of fairness in parliamentary remunerations. We believe that an immediate reversal is necessary to maintain the integrity and accountability of parliamentary processes.
Vani, as far as the public is concerned, they are really concerned about. There's a lot of concerns that have been raised in the way these things have been done.
Sure.
This government and these coalition government partners, before they came in, one of the biggest things they were saying was they will consult first, because that's what the previous government was not doing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, for a government that, as you said, that came in promising to be the government that listens, since day one, I have said this before, since day one, this government has sent out very mixed messages. And it's not just, it's coming from the Prime Minister's office, you see. So when the Prime Minister has already flip-flopped on issues before, issues like the Fukushima wastewater dumping, one is that. The other bit is around how they handled this particular issue. As Madam GS has already alluded to, we are quite specific in our petition. We've highlighted that we want government or Parliament to undo their decision. We know that there are processes in Parliament that they are familiar with, that they should use, but they are already saying, so one day they say, we will rethink this or we will redo this. And then the next day you see the Gazette coming out. And even though they are insisting that this is law, we are telling them that it's morally wrong, especially when we have other priorities, especially when we're a government or when we're a country that's struggling to pay debt. That half of our government budget is spent paying off the debt that was created over how many years. We think that government must put their money where their mouth is. If you're a government that listens, then if people are starting to say to you on social media and starting to say to you, the media is coming to you to pose questions to you that has been raised to them from the public, and they are using the excuse that nobody has lodged a complaint. Did we have to do that?
That's what Linda Tambue said, the Minister for Social Protection, Women and Children, was the chair of the Parliamentary Emoluments Committee.
Exactly, and that is the ministry that's supposed to look after the vulnerable, the marginalized. We expect them to behave like ministers that look after a portfolio that's responsible for vulnerable people. They're not behaving like that. Their conduct has been bad. They need to behave like members of parliament, like everywhere else in the world, where there's a level of decorum that they bring. There's that hollowed halls of parliament is very respected, and so are the people who sit in it. But so far, the controversies that they've brought along with them in their 1 year, 6 months that they've been in government has really taken down the esteem of those chambers. So I'm saying that if you're a government that had promised to listen, then listen. You don't have to listen and create like formal spaces, but you have functions even in your political parties and all that. Listen to them. Listen to the public that are talking to you on your social media pages.
And get the job done.
There
you believe the job is being done? Is a Fiscal Review Committee member appointed by government?
I don't believe so, and I think our report has come out just recently, beginning of the week. On top of that, the Macroeconomic Committee has just issued a very damning condemnation of their non-performance. So why are we giving them a pay rise?
So you believe that this government, Parliament in general, is not performing well, and on top of that, not only increasing their pay, but also increasing other benefits. Now, some other people are getting official residences and other things, including allowances being increased. So it's not just salaries.
That's right. And they did so without our input. So they're just paying themselves. That's why we are very particular about our first two demands on our petition.
And your demands are?
The first one is around reversing that decision. Find a way to reverse that decision, and you...
I have the law.
You have the law there, and you know exactly how they can do that. We know that they know. So if they're making excuses, which they have already started to do, we don't want to hear it. Undo your decision.
In case they don't know, because the legal advice was not properly given, and that's why it was given as an issue, based on, I will read some sections of the Parliamentary Remunerations Act. Now, just the history of this act. It came in the form of a decree. Before the 2014 elections, this came in as a decree where the then interim government, led by Vorenge Bainimarama, increased salaries of mainly the cabinet ministers, and the Prime Minister got a huge pay increment to $328,000. I think Mr. Garase, the late former Mr. Garase, when he was Prime Minister, his total salary, base salary, was just over $100,000, close to about $120,000. That pay of the Prime Minister increased before the democratic elections. As you know, after 2006 there was no democratic elections. In 2014 was the next one that was called, and that's when before the elections was held, the decree came into place, $328,000 for the Prime Minister. And there was another change where the Minister for Economy was paid more than the other ministers. He was paid, and Ayaz Said Qayyum, the former Minister for Economy, used to get paid $235,000, and the rest of the ministers categorized between, I would say, $185,000 to $200,000. And Leader of Opposition, $120,000, and the Members of Parliament, $50,000. There's an issue about the Members of Parliament with the COVID, the 20% pay reduction. The Members of Parliament who are not ministers or assistant ministers are on 40,000 salary, and that there's a question mark on whether that is a reasonable amount or not, and that's open for full discussion and consultation. The act, that this then became an act, but there's specific things here. Section 9, Judith, there's a section saying Parliament may appoint a committee, and it says Parliament may by resolution appoint a committee which shall provide advice to Parliament on the determination of remuneration. It doesn't say Parliament may appoint a committee made up of parliamentarians. What's your message to those watching tonight, knowing that this act, the law is clear that it may appoint a committee? It does not say may appoint a parliamentary committee. Do you want an independent committee appointed?
I totally agree with that. There needs to be an independent committee. In any organization, there's got to be transparency. Should you review a salary, of even parliamentarians or workers in general, there's an employer, and there got to be an independent committee in terms of transparency. I have never come across any government, in the world that voted for their own salary increase. Maybe it has happened, which I'm not aware of, but I have never come across this. So these questions, the transparency and the processes that's being carried out, to carry the motion through and to get it passed in Parliament. This can be reversed. You've read of the Remuneration Act. My message is there got to be transparency, and in terms of governance, the right process needs to be followed.
Linda Tambuya is saying, and of course in the report, the Emoluments Committee report, independent consultant, there is one independent consultant that is talking about the changes recommended, and they've based the changes based on that. Do you think that's enough for just have one independent consultant?
That is not really sufficient. That is not enough. We need more than one independent committee for fair decision making. Otherwise, decisions tend to be biased and lean towards, the majority as parliamentarians. So, in terms of decision making for a fair decision, we need, say, 50% or more of independent consultants to carry out the review.
Just to give you a bit of background, also the 1997 Constitution, which was abrogated back in during Mr. Bainimarama's time, when he was head of the interim government, stated that if there is a review of parliamentary privileges and benefits, that Constitution stated that it needed to be an independent Emoluments Commission that needed to be appointed, and that was set in the Constitution. Unfortunately, in our current Constitution, the 2013 Constitution does not have that section. But I'm just reading you off this Remunerations Decree that became an Act in 2014. As you know, all the decrees became acts. The government, when they came into power, the Fiji First, pushed through all the decrees and acts. And section on submissions to Parliament, talking about consultation, it says clearly here, in terms of determinations on salaries and benefits, any other person or organization is entitled to make written submissions to Parliament in relation to the making of the determination. You're a member of the Fiscal Review Committee. Were other organizations, even organizations like NGOs and others, because the public, as far as the public knows, that they never got a chance to make submissions. Was any approach made that there is a plan here?
Not directly. We just heard it over like the media approaching us for comments, and then that's when we were then became aware of the proposal that was put forward.
The Parliamentary Emoluments Committee did not make any approaches.
No contact made to NGOs. So that was really our concern, was that one is performance review, and if you look at some of the reports that have been coming out about our economy, it shows that there are some things some windows of opportunities that we missed, reforms to particular sectors, key industries. Those opportunities were missed, and those, at the end of the day, they reflect on our leaders. That's where we should be assessing their performance. So, like any worker, we are expected to be assessed. If we want a pay increase, we perform really well, and then we say to our bosses, I think I've been performing well. Do you think you can consider pay increase for me? But that hasn't happened here. So Why should it be different just because they're sitting in Parliament? At the end of the day, this is our funds. So we should have a say on how that is done.
So take it back to the public.
Take it back to the public. The citizens, at the end of the day, should be the ones. They are the final authority on whether this government is performing or not. It's not some consultant, you know. It's not just dependent on one consultant who is an expert. At the end of the day, you were elected by people to serve a certain, you know, service, to provide a particular kind of leadership. And we tend to forget that. We tend to rely on overseas consultants. We rely on UNDP. They are not the final authority. At the end of the day, it's the citizens of Fiji who elect these people into Parliament. There should be some clause there that also allows us to participate in their performance assessment and for us to participate in whether they should get pay increase. And I'm not sure if it's there, but that's why we are
It is not
petitioning
there,
that.
but it just says that submissions to Parliament, which was not followed here. The only people who submitted to Parliament were the political parties who have representatives in Parliament. That's the only submissions that were made. So the submissions were just made by Fiji First, People's Alliance, SODELPA and NFP. NFP is the one that said don't go ahead with this. The others, of course, all said let's increase it, increase the benefits, and of course then the independent consultant said the same thing. You were part of the Fiscal Review Committee. There's a section on countervailing economic conditions in the law, Section 7. When setting the remuneration to be prescribed in a determination, Parliament must take into account any prevailing economic conditions based on evidence from an authoritative source, and B, may set the remuneration at a rate lower than it would otherwise have set. So it also says you have to take economic conditions into account. I'll ask both of you, starting with you, Judith. In terms of the economic conditions, I think it was made clear by the Fiscal Review Committee and others that we have a lot of debt to pay off. It was also stated in the budget address that about $1 billion out of the $4 billion allocated will be going to pay debt, refinance or pay debt. Now, this is a huge concern. 1 year ago this was being said, and just over 1 year after there's an increase being given.
Yes.
And the Remunerations Act is clear on countervailing economic conditions, if any, have to be taken into account. As the Civil Servants Union, what is your concern? I believe you have been told as well, you haven't been getting increments because of economic conditions.
Yes. So the government, as you know, the executive director, of course, has alluded to, was that they've been sending mixed messages. When we make submissions, you know, servicing of the debt is one of the main issues that we are informed by the government that we need to consider when we make submissions. And also we look at the you know, the inflation rate, how it has increased, and these you know, really should be taken into consideration. When this is not being considered by the emoluments community, that really questions the motive. Why can't we pay the civil service or the marginalized, but why are they paying themselves despite the economic conditions, the servicing of debt that requires to be done? So the motive here really is questionable.
Vani, the Prime Minister said one of the questions we had asked him on when $8.1 million is the figure that we're talking about, he said now that it's been approved, the motion has been approved, that the Minister for Finance has to go and look if the funds will be available to make the payment. You sit in a situation where you have seen everything from whole of government. I know the Fiscal Review Committee made a good assessment, and you were here last year talking about that before the budget, almost 1 year ago. Now, I'm asking you, was there any indication that the salary benefits, etc., were in the mix too in the next year after things improve?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all, no. It wasn't there. I mean, there were so many other issues that we were hearing about from the various agencies that came to present to us. I mean, they were already confirming what we suspected all along, the need for better integration, the coordination between different ministries and how that's constrained, the response to climate change and disaster, how that's, that needed a boost in terms of funding. But most of the time we talked about how do we pivot the social protection system so that it works for all vulnerables, and how do we make sure that we're not just feeding that handout mentality, but we're making sure that people are coming out of that poverty trap.
My concern is now we've increased the revenue base of government by increasing VAT and other taxes.
That's right. But the intentions were never meant for the increase of MP salary. It was all about providing government with that physical buffer. Let me not talk about that. Let me talk about what issues concern me. It was about improving social protection systems. It was about ensuring that we had some funds to be able to immediately respond to the needs for infrastructural improvements with regards to health and other services.
Now, the Prime Minister, we asked him, and we did invite him, and he did not come back with a confirmation. As I said, we will continue to try, because these are contentious issues based on the public raising concerns. And he did say he's listening. He's listening to everyone's views, and maybe we'll see some announcements made. When we asked him, he said the motion has been passed and it has already been gazetted on whether changes can be made. Now, the law says, Remunerations Act says, amendment of determinations. Parliament may amend a determination at any time while it is in force to remedy any defect or remove any ambiguity. So, if people are saying this is an ambiguity, that Parliament may appoint a committee, it doesn't say Parliament may appoint a committee made up of parliamentarians. Public consultation has not been done based on evidence provided. Countervailing economic conditions, you're saying we're still not out of the woods yet.
That's right.
Isn't this enough to show that it's ambiguous and let's urgently take this step?
I think there's adequate clauses in there for, government to understand that this is not a proposal that is going to be supported by the Fiji public. We've recorded almost 1,500 signatures. You should see the comments that, those who are signing on have put there. It's quite clear that the Fiji public understands that this is not something that they'll support, and they are so ashamed of their leaders for doing this at this time. It's very clear. I think that and thank you for sharing this, because it then makes clear that whatever government has been saying, the Prime Minister has been saying that we cannot undo this, we can't, it's been gazetted and all of that. There are particular ways in which you can undo this decision, and that's what we are asking them to do through this petition.
What if they don't do it? What if they don't do it?
We are going ahead with our petition. If they don't do it, they lose the public's confidence. It will affect, their political standing in the upcoming general election, 2026. Surely it will affect it, because I fully believe the public would have confidence in voting them into Parliament if this happens.
Vani?
Yeah, I guess, we're trying the best we can with the resources that we have within the confines of the law to show them that we do not support this. And if they don't listen to this petition, if they don't, we have 2 rallies planned. If they don't see, any sense in listening to the people who turn up to these events, then we'll show them at the ballot box. Usually governments, and that's the intention for us, is we want to do this lawfully. We want to tell them that these are opportunities for you to stay on track. Petition, if you haven't listened to what the rest of the public have been saying, then a petition. But this is just us trying to tell them, stay on track. There are changes that are needed in our country. Some of them should have been done last year, but you have 2 more years, 2.5 years maybe. And you should be able to fix your way now, rather than when you get to 2026 and you're saying, vote for me. I'm going to be a government that listens, but everybody says, our experience has been you've not listened, you've given us mixed messages.
The Prime Minister did say in his last statement that he is listening, and we will see what happens. Of course, next Friday 10 a.m. is the budget announcement, and we'll see what happens. It will be clear. If it's budgeted, the $8.1 million included, then the salaries and benefits will increase. We'll be back after this break.
Not following me
Sir,
again.
sir, जनता जानना चाहते हैं
Where are my
sir.
PR documents?
Sir,
No, no, no,
जनता
no.
जानना चाहते हैं sir. Are the rumors true, sir?
Hopefully.
Bye. Sir,
अरे
एक सवाल
यार।
सर, एक सवाल। आप अपने प्रेम दफ्तर के स्टूडियो में हम बन चुके हैं। जेसिका जी, जेसिका, जनता जानना चाहते हैं जेसिका।
Okay.
जनता जानना चाहते हैं कि आप कौन सी मेकअप लगाते हैं?
आज मैंने तो कोई मेकअप नहीं लगाया।
लगता है, लगा ले।
How dare you, DEA!
तो आप देख रहे हैं यहाँ एसएन का गाड़ी पड़ा है। काफी गर्जी है लेकिन एसएन साहब, एसएन सर, अमेरिका से आए हुए हैं सर। अमेरिका का जनता जानना चाहते हैं सर। आप हमेशा काला चश्मा क्यों पहनते हैं सर?
तो सफेद चश्मा कहाँ मिली? सफेद चश्मा देखा कहीं तुम?
तुकता काय को है?
Demis. Sa mama na lima.
Bebe kenapa?
Gol.
Watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I am Vijay Narayan, and our guest tonight, the Fiji Council of Social Services Executive Director Vani Catanasiga, and Fiji Public Service Association General Secretary Judith Kotobalavu. Pay disputes in relation to civil servants, that's already started. There's some heated debate going on between the Fiji Teachers Union, Fijian Teachers Association representatives and the government now, because they want a 30% pay rise. They said they've been hard done by, and there's been mass migration of teachers. How do you see this playing out? And also there's the Fiji Nursing Association raising serious concerns, not just about salary alignments and things that have gone wrong, but including working conditions like working 12-hour shifts. The CWM hospital still on that 12-hour shifts, very concerned about the Nurses Association, very concerned about the welfare of nurses, and the facilities not up to par in terms of delivery of services to the people. Judith, you definitely are talking to other unions who make up the organizations, the union bodies. What are the indications? People are worried about strike action now.
Thank you. Yes, respective unions actually taking a hard stance on this. in terms of salary increase. There has been talk on a strike because the working condition needs to be met. We understand that in terms of negotiation, there needs to be a consensus by both parties, which is the government and the union. We'll have to look at it in totality, the economic conditions, how the debt's being serviced, and there needs to be a budget for this. So we understand that very well. And for FPSA, we actually have filed our log of claims. We also have been negotiating with the Ministry of Civil Service. We actually filed our log of claim back in 2022, which still have not been resolved. And we calling for the government. There has been delaying tactics in regards to pay dispute. With FPSA, we actually filed a trade dispute with the arbitration court. The chairman of the arbitration court referred it to the mediation services for mediation. Unfortunately, September last year, the mediator is not available, has taken leave. Till to date, we have written to the arbitration court, the chairman of the arbitration court, for an earliest ruling. But then, the appointment of the chairperson and the secretary of the arbitration court, both positions are currently vacant.
It's vacant? For how long?
Yes, since September. I've raised this in one of my media statements. This is actually one of the issue of performance. Why, the chairman of the arbitration court are not appointed on time, and so it's a secretary to facilitate the proceedings, court proceedings, and to prevent any backlog of cases. So that's what we have faced. There's dealing tactics by the government in terms of the judicial process for any employment dispute. But nevertheless, we are calling for increase of for civil servants across the board salary increase in the 2024-2025 national budget.
What's the level of increment you're looking at?
Our log of claim is 10% for those in the lower salary bracket, that's from band A to band H, and 5% for those above, that's from band I and above. This is, to provide equity. We need to raise the salary by a percentage of those in the lower salary bracket, and those in the high salary bracket, they need a lower percentage of increase. And we actually, like I said, FPSA have looked at this in totality. We know the government is struggling to pay for the debt, but our claim is there. Civil servants, we are calling for a salary increase because they have been deprived of salary increase for the past 7 years.
The Minister for Finance has said there will be a salary increase for civil servants, but you would want 10% for the lower end and 5% for the upper.
We're calling for that. That's our.
What else is in your log of claims that needs to be urgently addressed?
Right now, the number one priority is the salary increase. Other issues we're dealing with it collectively. So we file a collective trade dispute or individual trade dispute with arbitration court. But the main issue, the priority in terms of log of claims is the salary increase.
In terms of disruptions to services, Vani, we know that the teachers have already said that they are very concerned. The nurses are raising real issues, and also there have been views expressed of when we have extended hours of work, people are also staying away from family, which results in other issues also emerging, like what the nurses are saying, that they've been told you have to have 12-hour shifts because there's no other option. What's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of sympathy from our members to what you would call their counterparts, particularly when we're working in disaster response. Some of communities, they witness some of the struggles that workers go through. I don't know whether I've shared this, but some of our DCOSS members, they were volunteering alongside medical teams during the pandemic, and I had struggled to get them to stop volunteering because they felt so deeply for their colleagues who were working in the medical services. And these are paid workers, I had to ask them, can you stop volunteering because you're putting yourself at risk? But that's that sort of camaraderie that comes from working together during tough times. I really sympathize with workers. And one of the things that we've been exploring, particularly at the Fiscal Review Committee, is how do we work together across different sectors? How do we support, the delivery of social services when government support is is not up to par? So how do we bring civil society on board as well? So we've been looking at how we do those partnerships. How do we explore innovative responses to the issue of the lack of economic resources to support, to really see that full suite of services out there in communities. So what happens when we go through these situations? What solutions are available? We're saying we'll bring our experiences as civil society to the table. But are there frameworks in government that can help us realize those kinds of partnerships, And for us, it's we recognize that government is going through this tough time. It's trying to revive this economy. But civil society has already shown before that we can come and support government. And so that's why we engage in different places, in different spaces. But those spaces have to be enabled. Those spaces have to be enabled right now with the utterances that's coming from different parts of government. She's been talking about integrity and trust. How do you build trust when you are saying different things at different times about the same issue? How do you create confidence and allow those kinds of partnerships to come at this time? So, there's goodwill out there. There's that sympathy that is coming from the civil society sector, but they need to enable that space and they need to be able to foster that. But when you have leaders who do different things at different times, say different things, you're not boosting their confidence about partnering with you.
National Minimum Wage Rate Review, you have it in your online petition as well. I'll ask you, Judith, first, the issue where you will be eagerly awaiting the announcement on that, and any other issues within the online petition that you'd like to highlight for the people who would be interested.
Thank you. Firstly, the Minister of Finance in last year's national budget, he announced that the national minimum wage will be reviewed in this budget, upcoming budget. So we are hoping that it will be increased. We understand, that the cost of living has gone up the roof. Fuel prices are increasing every month. The poor workers actually are struggling, and the government need to assist, the poorest of the poor, by providing assistance in terms of, raising the standard of living, so that they, at least they can provide for their family. There's essential food items provided. So minimum wage, we really want to see, an increase in the upcoming budget. We know there's been consultation going on. The report
August 1st, I think.
It's yet to come out, and I believe there's a deadline, August
1st, yeah.
August 1st, which is definitely after the budget announcement. So which means it probably will be delayed. Still on that, I'll go back to, to the salary. In the last year's budget also, the Minister of Finance announced that the civil service salary structure will be reviewed in 6 to 9 months' time after the budget announcement. As we speak,
Nothing has been done.
no review has been done. So I would say that's performance again on the government's part. We are looking at all those issues. Government should stick to their word, and carry out whatever they have promised the public and the civil service. So we're looking at, we really want to see the national minimum wage increased.
Cost of living issues, Vani, you are on the ground a lot in relation to also monitoring of prices. Initially, we have been raising issues about the price fluctuations and huge increases. Some talk about even FCCC is now conducting an inquiry and interested to find that out, what comes out of that report, because there's been said about unscrupulous traders overcharging people. And just earlier today, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Finance sending out a message to the companies that deal with chickens, say frozen chickens, and said that they enjoy a 42% duty protection, and they need to be passing on incentives to the people. From your perspective, what you've seen on the ground as far as cost of living is concerned, and from the Fiscal Review Committee, the urgency, what's required based on what we see.
Yeah, I think this is where I go back to the recommendations that were made from the Fiscal Review. And apart from that, our budget submissions have always said that we need to also encourage communities to look at other options. So eating local food, which is a bit cheaper than what is perhaps out there in the shops. Encouraging that, growing your home gardens, continuing with the habits that we developed during the pandemic. Because of the costs that were going to rise, that we were looking at VAT. So one of the things we asked government to do was to also consider looking at communal food gardens, supporting initiatives like that, things that like Friends does. We think that there's better ways to prepare ourselves for those cost of living issues, better support for those who are vulnerable, and that means looking back at the support systems that we have for like social protection. So we make it a bit more targeted to those who are particularly suffering at this time, whose well-being's been affected. That's why we were looking at the social protection system, so that it's not, we're particularly looking at those vulnerable populations, because there are different vulnerabilities that emerge, when the context changes. So, we're not only looking at food and nutrition, we're also looking at access to education. So it needs to be like a whole of system approach. But, the political will to do that whole of system change is lacking. That's what we are seeing. That while we have done, some bits have been seen in the first year, the rest of the initiatives that should have created that buffer, that never actually happened. Those things never actually happened. So we're asking them, please go back and look at the recommendations that are being done to, provided to you, even if it comes from the Fiscal Review, or if it comes from the Macroeconomic Committee or other committees that are experts in these different areas. Pay attention to these things. I know that they have their manifestos, that they are trying to implement here and there, but it's a matter of understanding what to prioritize. And when you put people first, it's quite clear what you should prioritize. When you understand what is happening in communities, you'll know I'll do this first and I'll do that later. But I don't think that understanding exists with our leaders.
Let's talk about priorities. What do you think this government is prioritizing? Do you think it's prioritizing the right things?
I would say the priority is not, they're not prioritizing the right thing. I totally agree with CEO, of course. You know, it's the public that needs to be prioritized, and the workers. The workers in the community, we have the marginalized, which the government need to look into, and the workers who are the main arm or the main machinery of the government. You know, they need to be their welfare need to be looked after first, and then the government can look into their welfare after. They have the resources. As you've stated earlier, they have officers, they have, you know, all the resources that is required to go out there and do the work. But the workers, no, they don't have 100% of the resources required for them to do the work. So they really should prioritize the marginalized, the workers. And we believe their welfare should be taken as the, you know, the last priority.
Consideration, priority,
Yes.
true.
Vani, priorities?
Well,
You again are part of the Fiscal Review Committee as well. So in terms of priorities, it was clearly set out. Do you believe that this government is prioritizing well based on what you have seen?
no, I don't think that they are doing that well. I think that, I mean, we should expect some challenges because this is a coalition government. But the second year, we shouldn't be seeing all of these disruptions. Perhaps, you know, being manifested at the national level, where there is disagreement about one, the pay, second, you know, conduct. You know, there are issues that we as FCOSS have submitted as budget submissions. You know, we've said, you know, some things we need to prioritize this year. We think, and that was quite unique, is safety and security. That's from our members. They want government to prioritize safety and security because of the drug problem. So what are we doing about that? There's a national defense and security review, great. But how are we dealing with the issues of safety in communities, of the women and the young children? If you go into some of these areas, you see needles on the ground. That's already telling us that something is seriously wrong. So we must be concerned about these things. I think that's one. One is also looking at leadership. It's not looking very coherent. It's very haphazard. Some of what they are doing looks very haphazard for the rest of us. We're looking from outside and saying, okay, what's going on? Leadership is required to bring the three, you know, partners together. I know that they have different priorities coming into government right now, and they've come with their manifesto issues. But the only thing that citizens are paying for is the National Development Plan. That's the key document. That's our Bible, not the manifestos. Collapse that into one, prioritize that, go into planning, go into reflection. If you need some help, you know, demystifying, you know, clarifying some of that, we are happy to come in and help you clarify those priorities for you. And you know, or some of this is already happening through the Fiscal Review and other committees. They should pay attention to these reports and read it.
Do you think they're paying attention?
I don't think so.
They're saying they're listening.
Well, the evidence is telling us right now that they are not listening. They are prioritizing things that are not priorities. The reforms haven't happened.
Drug problems, big issue, all of us, for the whole nation. Issues, I had the Minister for Home Affairs and Immigration here last week on the show, and he said it's a national security concern. What's your message to the people out there, including the government, from the union bodies, on what needs to be done, knowing that everybody is getting affected, including our children as young as primary school, exposed to things like methamphetamine and cocaine?
Thank you. although that the government is duty bound to tackle this festering problem before things do get out of hand. The coalition government must act on this shortcoming without delay. And we've noted that the government have sought assistance from our neighboring countries to address the problem. But we are willing to work with the government in tackling this, at all level, community level, right up to national level. Should there be training done, government needs to invest in, tackling this problem. Get assistance from abroad if need be. Then that is my message to to the government and the public, and the union is there, to assist in whatever way that is required. Maybe training for our members, the workers. Believe the committee is out there, and Madam Director, Executive Director can speak on that. But that is my message in regards to drug issue.
Vani, you have been on the ground. You've seen maybe the worst of it and got feedback from that in relation to the drug problem and prioritizing again to make sure that it's concrete decisions and strategic actions. What have you seen?
Well, we've raised this, and I think last week we were able to present to the National Defense and Security Review Team. One of the priorities for us is addressing police inaction, and we've tried to, we've sat with a team from the Southern Command to tell them about the concerns, the reports that have been coming from our DCOS members about how police stations are dealing with complaints, particularly for women and children. We're saying that if we don't address the rot in the police, then in terms of safety and security at the community level, we cannot really assure that. So we are telling one of the statements that our Vice President issued maybe 3 weeks ago. He said, why should we fund a police force that doesn't protect the most vulnerable? It doesn't make sense, And one of the things we want to first address.
So what type of reports are you receiving? Like when you say inaction?
Well, we've had a police station in the southern region that is well known amongst our members for not dealing appropriately with complaints on domestic violence. And so far, I think this week, we've recorded about 4 different complaints about a particular, to us that's quite an alarming trend, and we are saying to them that these are the most vulnerable in community, If you can assure protection for them, if they run to the police station and they don't get the help that they need, that you don't record their complaints or you don't answer to their need for safety, then why are we funding you? These are the most vulnerable. So for us, we had already called for a commission of inquiry into the police. That was even when the last administration was still in power. We have gone again to the Defense and Security Review Team to tell them that that's still a need for us. We think in some places, our members, they work very well with the police. In other areas, the issue of drugs is kind of the commonality. And so we're saying we need to root out whatever has been there. What is the culture that perhaps immobilize the police, and we're not quite sure what it is, but that's why we've been calling for a commission of inquiry.
We finish off the show tonight, give you both the opportunity to talk directly to the people in relation to your online petition and the rallies that are coming up, and the reason why you have decided to stand up and spearhead this and to talk to the people directly. Starting with you, Judith.
Thank you. Yes, we have launched an online petition. We believe as a citizen of this nation, all of us have a responsibility in nation building. So we're calling on the public and the voters who, yes, you voted the Member of Parliament into Parliament. we are just we are really concerned about the the governance, how the salary of the MPs have been raised, and not the civil servants are marginalized in the community, are not being prioritized. So for this petition, as a citizen, concerned citizen, we call upon you, sign the petition, and we're having 2 rallies coming up on the 22nd, this Saturday, and next Saturday as well, 29th. Let's show our support and solidarity, and also the other union members. We believe we have included some of the union. Yes, we have included some of the union, and this is a worthy cause. Something that we really have at heart, that we really want to see changes, good changes for the nation and for our future.
Naka.
One,
Yeah, maybe I'll just add and say that, for so many years we did not have the opportunity. We were very scared, very fearful to raise our voice against bad governance. Yeah? And we are thankful. The one thing that this government does really well is allowing us to speak. So given that they have provided that space, we want to take this opportunity to help rebuild our confidence to engage government so that they stay on track. And for us, this is the normal business of building a robust democracy in Fiji. Yeah? You may not agree, that's okay. We, in a society like ours, it should be okay to agree to disagree, Vijay. But the one thing that we want to say is that we've lost so many opportunities in the past to build a better democracy. And we are women, we also have, for example, I have 2 daughters. I don't want them to be dealing with the same issues we are supposed to deal with now. I want them to be able to walk into a future that is robust, that allows for vibrant participation of citizens. And so for us, the petition provides the opportunity to have your views expressed. Even if you can't come to shows like this, you can still express your views by signing the petition. Join us at the rally at the Suva Civic Center this Saturday, or the car park at the Suva Civic Center, and on the 29th at the Thurston Garden. That's the day after budget announcement. Hopefully we'll be celebrating. But it's going to be, we encourage you, bring your children. We are trying to re-encourage this kind of participation from citizens in building a better democracy in our country.
as the Fiji Council of Social Services Executive Director, Vani Catanasiga, and Fiji Public Service Association General Secretary, Judith Kotobalavu. And as we said, that we had also invited all the parliamentary leaders for the show tonight, and the seats are always available on Straight Talk for people to come and talk straight in terms of what we need to do. The show is about accountability, transparency, holding people to account, and making sure that we're dealing with facts and only facts, and looking at statistics, the laws, what the laws are saying at the moment, and whether we are following, and also as part of awareness what is going on. So until next week, have a great evening.